Hello everyone, this is Osama Salman from Dorgam Games. I am the creator of Dorgam Localization, a localization plugin for Unity game engine that supports multiple languages including RTL languages such as Arabic and Hebrew. So let's get started. First of all, I'd like to tell you that you will spend most of your time with the tool in this prefab, the dictionary prefab. Dictionary prefab, first let me clear these things so that you have it just like you have it when you first install. Right, so you don't have a thing. Alright. So this is a clean install of the dictionary. So in the dictionary, here you are going to define all your texts, and you will use terms to refer to your text. So for example, if you have a sentence that is saying hello, good morning in English, and bonjour in French and marhaban in Arabic, all of them will be called in one term that is called, for example, H1 or hello, and then you will use this term in every place that you want to display the text. And once you set a certain language, it's going to show you that language. If you don't get what I mean, it will get clearer once we use it, so just let's get into its details. So let's add first a string term, which is basically text. So we're going to make it 1 if you want to add 1, make it 2 if you want to add another one. There is also a cool way to add elements. If you just right click and say duplicate your element, you can get another element. You can also delete them this way. So you don't need to, like, say if you wrote 3 and you want to delete the middle one, so you don't need to make this 2. You could just right click here, and say delete. So yeah, that's how you manage your term. So let's get into adding a term. So value is the term, so let's call it hello. Okay, hello. And now we have something called translations, which is basically the translations of this term in multiple languages. So say we wanted to add 3 languages. We will choose that language to be English, for example, and the value of it is hello. So this is how hello looks in English. And say we want to add French, so let's look for French. Where's French? Yeah, that's French. So bonjour. Say we want to add Arabic. Now you will notice something. If I write Arabic here, it looks pretty ugly. It's not connected and it's flipped. So that's why I would suggest that when you want to write Arabic, just do write it in a notepad like this, then copy so you know how it looks like, and actually paste it here. Alright, so now we have our term. So let's see how we can use this term. But before that, let me just show you these 3 settings down here. These settings are basically for the whole game. So we could first set a start with device language, which, as we read in the tooltip, it says setting this to true will make the game always start in the device default language and will ignore the value of starting language, which is the second one here. So basically, if you are on Android and this Android is in French, if you start the game, it will start in French. That's what it means. So guess you don't want that. Maybe you want the game to always start in English, so you don't take that and then set the starting language to English. Lastly, we have the fallback language. Fallback language is basically, say that you requested a translation in French and the game, the dictionary didn't have a French translation here. So what will happen is that a fallback language will be used, which means that it will instead look for this language. This is useful if you have a game that is not fully translated and maybe you you translated only the core mechanics or the core parts of the game, and so the other text you just maybe the names or whatever, you're leaving it with the original fallback language. Okay, so that's for the settings. They are pretty simple. Now let's start using the term. So I'm just gonna create a simple canvas here. Alright, so we have our canvas. Cool. Now we are going to create a text. Okay, we have our text here. Let's center it. Sorry, centered. Alright. So we're going to erase the text here, and then we're going to, you don't need to erase it, but it's up to you. You just, if you want to localize the text component, all you have to do, just add a component and search for a component called localize text UGUI, and that's it. This term will basically, this script will basically localize it for you whenever the language change. Straight as forward. So our term was hello. You just write it here. Now before we go on and test it, I will just talk about these two other fields, the font and the low alignment change. Well, usually when you're making games, you don't use the same font for all languages, you use different fonts. That's why Dorgam localizations also support the localizations of fonts, so you can use fonts. But it would be exhausting to write the font for each text that you're using, so you would necessarily have a default font, and in some places you would change it. So that's why when you are going to use Dorgam localization, you need to set a term for the default font. So you go to the dictionary, and on the fonts you add a 1, and you have to call it this name, default UGUI. This is the default font for the Unity GUI text. Okay, so let's add all the translations. We have Arabic, English, and French. I'm gonna use this Noto Sans font, which is already included in the package. The cool thing about this Noto Sans font that it is a font developed by Google, so that whatever the text you write, so if they say you write the word hello, which is marhaba, bonjour, and then when you show it, it will all, or not necessarily, but to as much of a degree, they all will look or take the same width. So the letters of all the languages kinda try to be in a similar range. That's why if you're designing your UI in one language and then you change the language, it won't suddenly look like a nightmare. It will look still uniform. So there's other fonts that exist like that, but I like this one because it supports Arabic and it's really cool. So yeah, now we have our default font. Let's go back to the text. So since I do have a default font, I don't want to add a special font for this one, so I'm just gonna leave it empty. Now let's gonna talk about this a low alignment change. A low alignment change is basically is useful when you are changing from a left to right language to right to left language. Now in left to right languages, if you have your text aligned to the left, like what it is currently now, to the left, then what would happen is if you change to a right to left language, it will also change the alignment, taking in consideration the other alignment. So if you're aligning it to the top and to the left, then when you change it to right to left, it will change to right top too. And if it was in the center, it won't change. So it's really convenient if you want to also change your alignment. If you don't want that to happen, you want to stay all in the same place, say you're designing your UI in such a way, then just remove this thing. For now I'll keep it. And yeah, before we test it, it would be cool if we have buttons that each of them have changed the language for us, so you can see our changes. So let's create them. UI button. Alright, this is our first button. Come here. Okay, so this one, we can change the text of it to English. Alright, and we are going to now, one cool thing about Dorgam localization is this cool component called set language on button click, which basically changes the language to the target language of your choice. So the English button should change to English, obviously. Now I'm going to duplicate this one, so I can have another 2 buttons, right? And lastly another one here. Cool, now I have 3 buttons. Let's change the text of this one to French. And what we also need to change is the target language. Oh, not Finnish. French. Yep. And for the last one, we want it to be Arabic. Alright. So now we have all the 3 languages. And we have our text in the center, which is hello. I guess we're ready to test. Hopefully we didn't do anything wrong. Yep. Now, because we set in the dictionary our starting language to be English, what we first seen was English. Now, if you click on Arabic, Marhaban appears, and it's aligned correctly. Set back to French, we get bonjour, and English. Yep, so it's pretty much working. Now, let's try localizing images. So, we are going to create an image. UI image. Yep, let's put it up here. And then, I have here in the example data sprites we can use. Yeah. So, here it is. We set it to native size. That's a bit huge. Scale it up, down. Yep, now we have our own sprite. So, let's see how the sprite will change. It's in the same way, we're just gonna add the correct localization component. In this case, we are localizing a what? What is our target? It is an image. So what we were looking for is localized image. Same way, we need to add a term. So let's go to the dictionary, sprite terms, add a 1. Let's call it cool sprite. Oops, there's. Alright. I'm just gonna use 2 languages. So Arabic and English. So here's our Arabic and here is our English. Cool. Now let's get started. Oh, we didn't set the term yet. Right. Okay. So cool sprite. Yep. Okay, so it's in English now. If we click in Arabic, it becomes Arabic, English, English again. So now let's make an experiment. We didn't put a French translation, but what would happen if we changed French? It became English. I wonder why that is. If we look to the console, it will say French translation of term cool sprite does not exist in the dictionary, so it's attempting a fallback translation. And of course we change that to French. And what is the fallback translation we have here? It's English, so that's why it has fallback to the English. This is better than actually showing null or empty, so you can have your game progress and change it without worrying about adding everything from day 1. Okay, so that's for images. Pretty cool, huh? So another cool thing that Dorgam localization supports is audios. You can do the same for audios, so let's add an audio listener. And we add the component, localize audio. Same way, we need to go to dictionary, add our term, go to audio terms, add a 1, and let's call it the same way, cool audio. Alright, so, oops, just two. Now if you go to let's make it French and English, and then I'm going to the audio and set it to English and to French. Let's call it cool audio. Alright, so let's put the play on the wake so we can hear something. Yeah. Now, changing the clip of an audio source does not immediately start the audio, so you have to actually write some code to call the audio to start it. And since this is not part of this tutorial, just gonna put an English tutorial as default and show you how it starts.
Where is the bus stop?
Where is the bus stop?
Where is the bus stop?
Alright.
Where is the bus stop?
Unfortunately, it's in a
Where
loop,
is the
so
bus stop?
shut up.
Where
Okay.
is
Alright, so let's do it again.
Where is the bus stop?
Now, if
where
we
is the bus stop?
if we change to French, we see that the audio here has changed to French, but it didn't play, of course, because we didn't call it or ask it to play. But if we did, we would hear French. So that's for the audio. If we go to the localization core, we can see all the components that are implemented for localization. We have localized audio, localized image, sprite renderers too, so you can use it for 2D sprite, localized text view GUI. And in our add-ons, we have also support for TextMesh Pro. So, how do we enable TextMesh Pro? Simply, all you need to do is just go to the asset store, download TextMesh Pro, import it, another cool thing about Dorgam localization that it has a conditional compilation. So, although that there is already code in the plugin that only works if TextMesh Pro is installed, you can still use the plugin without TextMesh Pro there. But if you wanted to use TextMesh Pro, once you install it, there is an editor code that checks if TextMesh Pro is installed, and then it enables the compilation of the TextMesh Pro code. It's just some technical details that you don't really need to worry about, but I'm just saying it if you're wondering how does it work. You can look at it up. It's called conditional compilation in Unity. Alright, hopefully it's about to end. TextMesh Pro is a little bit big. I wonder when they are going to include it permanently with Unity, because it's just about time, I believe. Okay, we have it. Sorry for the long wait. Now, let's add TextMesh Pro text and see what happens. But first of all, I want to change something. I want to add a long Arabic text. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, now the point of this, I'm going to show you some issue that is only happening with the Arabic language. So I'm gonna change hello here to all this text, and in the English version I'll just keep it the same. So if we add another text here, but this might text mesh pro. Okay, we have this guy here. Now we have the component localized text mesh pro GUI, and we add the term hello. Now before we forget, TextMesh Pro use completely different fonts than Unity text. It's you actually have to create fonts using their font creator, and to add the fonts there is, if you go to the dictionary, there is another field now enabled. It's called TMB fonts. So let's add the default TMB font, which is just same concept as the default font of the text, and it is not called default GUI. In fact, it is called default TMB. Okay, so let's add two translations, English and Arabic. If we go to the example data, I have included TMB fonts that are based on the Noto Sans font for your convenience, so just use them here. And now we have our default TMB fonts. So let's go to the TextMesh Pro. We have our hello and the low alignment change. Yep, we're good to try.
Where is the bus stop?
Where is the bus stop?
I should really stop this voice, but anyway, it has now worked. So if we change it to Arabic, oh, now here's the interesting thing I wanted to show you. Just the text is a bit down. TextMesh Pro is so cool in supporting Arabic, so it doesn't flip the fonts. So if your word is actually on different lines, it is going to show it correctly. However, if you are using it on text, I'm sorry, I'm just getting confused. Yeah, so if you're using it on the text, it's going to be flipped. So here, if you go to look at the Unity text, let's just enlarge it. So we see here, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is in the second line. The lines are flipped. And unfortunately, it's not something that is easy to fix with the Unity text. So unfortunately, the only solution to it is just to use TextMesh Pro. Anyway, TextMesh Pro is way cooler and better, and even if you're not using it for Arabic, I would highly suggest using it. So yeah, that's it for TextMesh Pro, and I guess, yeah, we covered it all. But before I go on, I want to talk about how can you use Dorgam localization from code. Now, the first and most obvious thing that you want to do is changing your language, setting the language from code. So how do you do that? So let's go to the script of set language on button click and see how it works. Alright, so I just need to reload Visual Studio for installing a new plugin. Okay, so here's so. So on the click of a button, all we have to do is just call the localization manager, which exists in the namespace dorgam.localization.co, and then calling the function set language. Then we pass to it a target language. Target language is basically a Unity enum called system language, which is all the languages supported by Unity. So if you pass your own language, the language will change and an event will be fired, and then all the terms in the scene would get translated. Alright, so how could we if we wanted, for example, to call a specific language. I didn't want to get a translation for the current language that it is. I just want to get the translation of a certain language I choose. So what we have to do is just go to the localization manager, and then we will find a function here called get language translation. It's a generic function, so if you're getting a translation of a text, you would call it using a string, and if you are wanting a sprite, so you'd call it with a sprite, and you pass to it the term, of course, and the language that you want it in. This is different than the get translation, which is the default translation way, so it would just get the translation of the current language that is set through that other function I just showed you before. So if you're using a plugin or another tool from Unity, you would need to find a way to integrate them both. All you have to do is just call these functions which are at the right time, and this would be the challenge, just to find the best time to call and use these functions. Of course, I intend to continue working on Dorgam localization, so I wouldn't mind if you ask for my help in this, and if you have like a specific thing that you think that is important to be localized, I can implement its own localization component, because it's really straightforward and easy, and I could make another video tutorial explaining how could you implement your own localization components that are like localize image, localize, and if you wanted a specific one like localizing materials or whatever, just make a request, contact me at Twitter at the Dorgam, which is just like that. I'm also gonna put these things on the description. So yeah, this is my email and my Twitter, so feel free to contact me on them, and I would be happy to answer you and help you. I hope that Dorgam Localization is going to help you with the development of your game, and if you need any help or you find a bug in it, I would really appreciate if you contact me, and I will do my best to help you. Thank you for listening. I hope this wasn't long, and goodbye.